My Uncle Wilf used to say the only time the government's got any use for us is in a war. He used to say that they only need so many of us to do the things that need doing, and the rest they'd rather be without.
They say comedy is just for laughs, but sometimes it's the only way to tell the truth without being silenced. Warnings don't always come as alarms and sirens, sometimes they come as jokes. The real problem is, we laugh when we should be listening.
Christmas ain't what it used to be. Nothing is, unless it's me getting older. Things was cheaper though, lot cheaper. You could get 5 cigarettes for tuppence then.
They don't make them in 5s anymore, do they?
Well, you never see them.
People smoke more, I suppose.
Yeah. People do seem to be smoking more since the cancer scare. Worry, I suppose. There was none of that then either.
What?
Cancer was all TB then.
They can cure that now, can't they?
Yeah. I suppose as soon as they can cure cancer, they'll think of something else to worry us with. My Uncle Wilf used to say he reckoned it was the government.
What?
Used to give us all these diseases.
To be daft, Mum.
Well, they put them in our food. That's what he used to say.
Mum.
You can taste it in the water sometimes.
That's chloride.
Well, there you are.
They put that in to improve the water.
Well, it don't improve the taste. My Uncle Wilf used to say the only time they've got any use for us, the only time the government's got any use for us is in a war. Rest of the time he used to say we're an embarrassment to him. Yeah. He used to say that they only need so many of us to do the things that need doing, and the rest they'd rather be without. So they spray our food, put things in the water to keep us down. Well, they do it to rabbits. He used to grow all his own food.
Everything?
Well, all he could. He only had a window box.
There was a time when things felt real. Food had flavor, water had purpose, and life had a rhythm that made sense. Now everything feels manufactured and not discovered. The change didn't happen overnight. It was slow, subtle. Little by little the things we once knew started to fade. What was natural became artificial, and somehow people accepted it as progress. But was it really progress or just another way to control the outcome? Look around. Nothing just happens. Everything is planned. Systems are put in place and narratives are shaped long before they ever reach us. We think we have choices, but in reality, we're just picking from options that were already decided for us. And when someone tries to speak up, the truth either gets buried under distractions or disguised as a joke. Because if they make you laugh at it, you'll never take it seriously. But the message has always been there. The signs have always been right in front of us. The only question is, are we paying attention?
I think the election was a victory for good government. It might also be called a victory for propaganda. But that would have been equally true if our opponent had won. Good government is a phrase we use many times during the campaign. We said the mayor stood for good government and promised good government. But it's true, isn't it? What's true? What does good government mean? Is the mayor's idea of good government the same as yours?
I see. It's a glittering generality.
One of the best.
Follow me to the end as I unpack this very important video. The message in this clip is more relevant today than ever before. It speaks to the heart of what true education should be, teaching people how to think critically, question what they see, and seek the truth. Sadly, if the man in the video could see the state of politics today, he'd likely be turning in his grave. The level of propaganda and manipulation has reached a point where genuine debate is almost non-existent, and critical thinking is a skill we desperately need to revive.
Perhaps I can help you, Chuck. I think the election was a victory for good government. It might also be called a victory for propaganda. But that would have been equally true if our opponent had won.
But how can you study it?
Well, you can begin by investigating the techniques of propaganda. Here, I've listed some of the main ones. Glittering generalities?
What is a glittering generality?
That headline you were quoting. A victory for good government. Good government is a phrase we use many times during the campaign. We said the mayor stood for good government and promised good government.
But it's true, isn't it?
What's true? What does good government mean? Is the mayor's idea of good government the same as yours?
I see. It's a glittering generality.
One of the best.
One of the points raised in the clip is how propaganda works to manipulate us. Words like good government are thrown around as if everyone agrees on what that means, but have you ever stopped to ask yourself what it actually stands for? It's a glittering generality, a term designed to sound appealing without offering any substance. Everyone is left assuming their version of good government aligns with what's being promised, but no one questions whether that promise has any real meaning. Then there's the tactic of labeling opponents with terms like dreamer or visionary. These words might sound harmless, even flattering, but they're often used to dismiss someone's ideas as unrealistic or out of touch. It's a polite way of undermining someone without engaging with their arguments, and it happens all the time in politics.
There's another.
Yes. And why do you suppose our opponents chose that phrase?
I guess because everybody likes a real American.
Right. And they wanted to transfer that liking for a real American to Mr. Butler. A day or so after that poster came out, I said in one of my campaign speeches, our opponent advertises himself as a real American. I say he is unreal, unrealistic. He is a visionary, a theorist, a dreamer. He is so thirsty for public office that like a weary traveler in the desert, he sees a mirage, and he is trying to sell it to you as real. There. Now what would you call that?
That's name-calling, visionary, theorist, dreamer.
That's right.
Another tactic is card stacking, choosing certain facts that fit the narrative while conveniently leaving out the rest. For example, a candidate might be blamed for a crisis that started long before they were in office, but that detail is left out to paint them as incompetent. It's about presenting a partial truth, and unless you dig deeper, you'd never know you were being misled. The most dangerous propaganda, though, is the kind that plays on identity. When someone is labeled as a real American, it's meant to evoke pride and belonging. But does being a real American automatically make someone the best choice? That's the trick, connecting an idea to something people already admire, without giving them a reason to question it. This technique, known as the transfer device, is powerful because it bypasses logic and goes straight to emotion.
And those are very polite names. For my collection of propaganda materials, I've made a special record of part of one of Mr. Butler's radio speeches.
Mayor Cooper asks that he be judged by his performance in office. Very well. Let's ask him who was mayor when the municipal waterworks fell into such a state of disrepair that the whole town was without water for 2 days. Let's ask him. But no, let's not. It might embarrass him.
That's what we call card stacking. Cooper was mayor when the pumping station broke down, but it was the men in office before him who allowed it to get into such a rundown condition, and it finally gave way before he could get anything done.
And card stacking is choosing some facts and leaving out others, and arranging them to suit your purpose.
Now, did you see our little campaign movie?
Yes, a couple of times.
Well, let's look at it again.
Land sakes, a body hardly has time enough. The house to clean, and the washing to do, and the men folks to feed. They like their chocolate cakes, too. But I do want to take time to tell you that I've known Dick Cooper ever since he was knee-high to a grasshopper. He comes of a good, respectable family, just as honest as the day is long. And he knows our town. He's one of us. That's why I'm going to vote for Mayor Cooper. And all my friends are going to vote for him, too.
Recognize the technique?
That must be what you call plain folks.
That's right. You'll find many versions of the appeal based on the common man, the man on the street, log cabin to president. Now let's look at the rest of the movie.
Yes, Mrs. Hamline is voting for Mayor Cooper. Her friends are voting for Mayor Cooper. Your friends are voting for Mayor Cooper. The people know what they want, and what they want is Mayor Cooper. Don't you be left behind. Get on board the Victory Special. Vote for Mayor Cooper and ride with him to victory.
That ending's easy to spot. It's the bandwagon.
Yes, the propaganda we've been talking about is easy to detect. But a great deal of propaganda is much more hidden, much harder to detect.
That's what's bothering me. Even in a small local election, there's so much propaganda. That poster, a real American, it uses a transferred device. Does that mean it isn't true?
Not necessarily. Evaluating propaganda isn't that simple. Recognizing the technique is one step. Another step is to know the purpose. What is the purpose here?
That's easy. To get people to vote for Butler.
Yes, to persuade people that Butler is the better man, to move them to vote for him. In short, to sell Mr. Butler to the voters. You'll find that the purpose of most propaganda is to persuade people to believe something, to do something, or to buy something.
All right. But it still doesn't answer my question.
No. Your next step, and it's a big one, is to get the facts.
Well, is he a real American?
Howard Butler was born in this country. He obeys its laws. He's a good citizen. Yes, he is a real American. The same can be said for Richard Cooper. So ask yourself whether the facts support the purpose. Do they support the transfer of feeling from real American to Mr. Butler over Mr. Cooper?
No, I guess not.
Well, that's your fourth step. Weigh the facts against the purpose and the technique.
I think I understand. To know whether propaganda is good or not, whether it's true or not, I should know the purpose, recognize the technique, get the facts, and judge the purpose and technique by the facts.
But when you want the facts about live political battle, don't come to a campaign manager.
I might do it at that. But I will also go and see your opposition.
Well, that's all right. Whenever you're tracking down propaganda, get as many different points of view as you can.
Do you know something?
What?
I think that it might be interesting to make a really serious study of propaganda.
I find it interesting, and there's plenty to study. Here I have just a few of the many books on the subject. You can read them. You can keep your eyes and ears open for little bits of propaganda. And, of course, you can study whole propaganda campaigns. Here are a few on which I've been gathering material. Hitler and Nazi Germany had a campaign of propaganda that ran over many years. Then there's a wealth of propaganda to study on the subject of Russia and communism. There's propaganda to study in our own American elections, national as well as local, and in many of the major issues on which elections often hinge.
Well, if I don't learn about propaganda, it won't be because there's no way to study it.
That's right, Chuck. Remember the techniques of propaganda, and use the procedure we out is a powerful force. So powerful that your study of propaganda is important not only to you, but to me, and to the world.
What really stands out is the reminder to seek the facts and weigh them against the message being sold. It's not enough to recognize propaganda. We need to understand its purpose and judge whether it aligns with the truth. If we don't, we risk falling for every emotional appeal and catchy slogan that comes our way. The lessons from this clip couldn't be more important today. We live in a time when politics is more about persuasion than substance, and critical thinking is often dismissed as unnecessary. But if we want to make informed decisions, we need to look beyond the glittering words and flashy campaigns. We need to ask tough questions, dig for facts, and consider multiple perspectives. That's the only way to cut through the noise and hold leaders accountable. This isn't just about politics, it's about how we approach every aspect of life. Let's make critical thinking a habit, not a rarity.